This week the world lost Dolly Parton, 80 years old, a legend gone. And in all the tributes, almost nobody noticed something strange about one of the last songs she ever recorded. It wasn't country. It wasn't even hers. It was a Freddie Mercury song. We Are the Champions. Of every piece of music on earth near the end of her life, Dolly Parton reached for that one. And the real reason it fit her so perfectly comes down to a single decision Freddie made in a London studio in 1977. A decision almost everyone who sings this song has completely misunderstood, including maybe you. Picture it for a second. Dolly Parton, one of the most beloved artists who ever lived in her late 70s, standing at a microphone, choosing to sing a rock anthem written by a man from a completely different world. A country girl from the mountains of Tennessee, singing the words of a Parsi immigrant from Zanzibar. On paper, they share nothing. No genre, no country, no era. And yet she reached for his song like it had been written for her all along. Hold on to that question because it is the heart of this whole story. Why this song? To answer it, we have to go back to where it began. 1977. Queen were already famous, but Freddie wanted something different. Not another radio hit. He wanted a song a crowd could sing back to him, word for word, with no rehearsal. Something that belonged to the people in the seats as much as the man on the stage. He had been watching football crowds, the way thousands of strangers become one voice, one chant, rising together in the cold. That sound stayed with him. So he sat at a piano and tried to bottle it. What he wrote would go on the album News of the World, released as a double A-side with We Will Rock You. There was something almost reckless about the idea. In 1977, punk was tearing through Britain, and here was Freddie writing a grand, chest-out anthem meant to be sung by stadiums. Critics could have laughed. He paired it with Brian May's We Will Rock You, that stomp and clap you already know, and released the two together as a single unit. One song to get the crowd pounding, the next to get them singing. Between them, they handed an audience two things to do with their own bodies and voices. That was the whole design. Queen were not just performing to a crowd anymore. They were building a machine for the crowd to perform back. And to really hear the song, you have to know who Freddie Mercury was that year. Born Farrokh Bulsara on an island off the coast of Africa. An immigrant. A young man with a mouth full of extra teeth he was mocked for, hiding parts of himself the world of that time would not accept. He was not born a champion. He was born an outsider who taught himself to walk onto a stage and command it. So when he wrote a song with that word, champions, in the title, he was not writing about trophies. He was writing about survival. Remember that, because it is exactly what Dolly heard in it too. But what happened next is almost the opposite of what he intended. The world heard the title, heard the sheer roar of it, and decided this was a sports song. A winner's song. It played over locker rooms and podiums and Olympic gold. The single word champions got flattened into a boast, a way of dividing the winners from everyone else. And the song's real meaning slipped quietly out of view. Most people singing it never listened to the verses underneath the chorus, because those verses are not triumphant at all. They are about struggle, about paying for your mistakes. About being knocked down by a world that was never fair, and refusing to stay down. And yet that misunderstood song became one of the most powerful pieces of music ever recorded. In 2011, a team of researchers set out to find the single most singable song in history. Out of everything ever put to tape, they landed on this one. Scientifically, the easiest song in the world for strangers to sing together. Sit with the irony of that. The catchiest anthem ever measured was written by a man the world had tried to make invisible. It sounds like pure victory. It was written by someone who knew the opposite intimately. That is the secret hiding in plain sight, and it is why the right people keep reaching for it. To see what he built, you have to go to the 13th of July, 1985. Wembley Stadium, Live Aid, the biggest television audience the world had ever assembled, close to 2 billion people watching. Queen had a short slot, just a handful of songs, and every act that day was fighting to be remembered. Freddie made a choice. He would not close with a ballad or a clever new track. He would end on this. On the anthem built for exactly this moment, a crowd too big to count, and one man deciding to hand the song over to them. He walked to the front of the stage. What happened in the next minutes is why people still call it the greatest live performance in rock history. 72,000 people at Wembley and millions more at home sang the song back to him, not politely, completely. Freddie barely had to sing the chorus himself. He just lifted his arm and the stadium finished it for him. For a few minutes, the thing he had imagined at a piano 8 years earlier was real and enormous and breathing all around him. One voice made of tens of thousands. The outsider from Zanzibar stood at the center of it, and the whole world sang his song as if it were their own. Because by then it was. Now hold that image. 72,000 strangers at Wembley becoming one voice because an outsider handed them his song. Keep it in your mind because almost 40 years later, in a recording studio in Tennessee, an old country singer would step up to a microphone and join that same crowd. She would sing the exact words Freddie lifted his arm to. That was his real gift, not the voice, extraordinary as it was. The instinct to write something that was never finished by him alone, something that stayed open, waiting, for everyone who came after to step inside and complete it. Dolly Parton was about to become one of them. Because after Live Aid, the song stopped belonging to Queen at all. It belonged to everyone. It played at weddings and graduations. It played at funerals, a strange fate for a so-called victory song until you remember what it is really about. Endurance, making it through, standing at the end of something hard and still being on your feet. Freddie Mercury died in 1991. He never saw the decades of stadiums still to come. But the song kept doing the one job he wrote it for. It kept turning strangers into a single voice long after he was gone. And the people who reach for it, the ones who truly mean it, tend to be the ones who know something about being knocked down. Not the effortless winners, the ones who clawed their way up, which brings us all the way back to that question from the beginning. Why did Dolly Parton, at the very top of everything, with nothing left to prove, reach for this song of all songs? The answer is that Dolly's story rhymes with Freddie's far more than anyone ever noticed. She knew exactly what that anthem was really about because she had lived it. In 2022, she was voted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and she almost said no. She felt she hadn't earned it, that she was a country songwriter, not a rock star, and didn't want to take a place she hadn't worked for. Think about that for a moment. One of the most beloved artists who ever lived at the very top of everything, still feeling like an outsider looking in, so she decided to earn it. At 77 years old, she made a full rock album, and on it, she recorded Freddie's anthem. And of all the rock songs in the world, think about why that one fit her so well. Dolly Parton was born in a one-room cabin in the mountains of Tennessee, one of 12 children, dirt poor. She was the outsider, too, the girl the world had every reason to count out. When she stepped up to sing We Are the Champions, she was not singing about trophies any more than Freddie was. She was singing about a whole life of being underestimated and standing anyway. Two people who started with nothing, an ocean and a world apart, meeting inside the same 3 minutes of music. And she did not do it quietly. That rock album made in her late 70s was enormous, dozens of songs, a room full of legends she had met the night she was inducted. She could have picked something safe. Instead, she reached for Queen, for the hardest kind of song to pull off, the kind that lives or dies on sheer conviction. Picture it. A woman in her late 70s, decades into being underestimated as just a sweet country singer, planting her feet and singing Freddie Mercury's anthem like she had every right to it, because she did. That took a particular kind of courage, the same kind the song is about. Because here is the thing about Dolly Parton, that the big hair and the rhinestones always hid. For decades, people underestimated her. They saw the wigs, the nails, the jokes she made at her own expense, and they assumed there was nothing serious underneath. They were wrong every single time. She wrote thousands of songs, built an empire, gave away millions, funded a program that put free books into the hands of children who had nothing. The woman the world kept mistaking for a punchline was one of the sharpest, most driven people in American music. Of course, she heard herself in a song about being counted out. She had been counted out her whole life and quietly proven everyone wrong. This week, Dolly Parton died at 80 years old, and that one recording became one of the last gifts she left behind. A country legend singing the anthem of a rock legend. Two outsiders who were never supposed to win, an ocean and a lifetime apart, meeting inside the same 3 minutes of music and both winning on their own terms. Freddie has been gone for over 30 years. Now Dolly is gone too. But the song they shared is still here, and it will outlive every one of us. So the next time you hear We Are the Champions, listen past the roar. It was never a song for the winners. It was always a song for everyone the world counted out, and who kept singing anyway. People exactly like Freddie, people exactly like Dolly.